Welcome, everybody, to another episode of our review of Star Trek Discovery. We are doing episode 5 today, Choose Your Pain. Pretty awesome title and there's some interesting titles. Like last week we had a Shakespearean title, and this is a more this is a Klingon title, Choose Your Pain. So I can't wait to talk about it, and I knew I couldn't do it by myself, so I brought along these amazing Star Trek experts to talk to us about it. First off, Robert Meyer Burnett is here.
Well, it's good to be here. You know, I think Choose My Pain is what I feel because I joined CBS All Access to watch this show. And last night, it was painful.
Well, there's a foreshadowing of what's to come. And then the lovely Ashley Victoria Robinson.
I'm so excited to talk about my new favorite couple on Star Trek.
And my number one and future Smowdown loser, Jason Inman.
Look, you're going to be choosing your pain after our match, but I also chose my pain because the app freezes every time I get a commercial.
Oh,
thanks, CBS.
Yeah, that's not a lie.
Well, you know, they always have to work these kinks out.
How about that multi-channel sound?
All right. All right, well, let's just start with the show overall. Let's just initial thoughts about this episode. Robert, what was you feeling?
You know, the whole Tardigrade storyline, as much as I think the whole spore drive and mycelium and is crazy weirdness, and by the way, the character of Stamets,
yes,
Brian Fuller came up with that character.
Right.
Stamets was the serial killer, the mushroom serial killer who grew mushrooms out of people in the second episode of his show Hannibal.
Oh,
He's also named after Paul Stamets' real life mushroom scientist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but my initial,
I
I thought the Tardigrade storyline was quintessential Star Trek. The idea that a sentient being like the Horta in Devil in the Dark, we've talked about that before, they finally hashtag free space water bear. That happened. I was very happy about that. I thought that the fact that Saru would continue to torture this poor, potentially sentient being who could travel the spaceways through his own DNA was horrific.
Yeah.
And the idea that there was even a choice to be made, you know what, we need the drive, so we're going to torture a sentient being, whether, you know, he cares or not.
Yeah.
Was very un-Star Trek and the beginnings of my problems with this episode.
Well, it's a fascinating thing you say, Robert, because Saru has been pretty much my favorite character on the show since the beginning, and to see his story through this episode to try to figure out if he be a good captain. I actually liked what they did to flesh him out, but I did feel that was weird because he himself is a creature from another planet under the Federation guidelines. So he would have known how the Federation uses it and doesn't use people. So it's really odd that he would be like, no, you put that thing, you hook that thing up and we're jumping. Because I got to save my human captain. You jump. But we get the background on him, though, a little more, that he's trying to struggle how to be a leader, and that Burnham took his opportunity away by having Georgiou accidentally killed through her actions, took away his opportunity to become a better captain.
I agree with you 100%. I thought that was terrific, great development with Saru, but then they turn around and do this thing where that's completely unsympathetic.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Star Trek has always been aspirational.
Yes.
You don't torture creatures when it's convenient to do so.
Yeah.
That's part of what being in the Star Trek universe is all about. You don't do those things.
Right. And I think the nightmare at the beginning foreshadows that, with Burnham hooking herself up in her mind to this because she understands what she's going through. Ashley, what did you think about the episode?
I actually thought this was the best episode that we've had so far, and I respectfully disagree with your feelings about how they treated Saru. I liked addressing the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It's a very classic Spock and Vulcan standpoint, and I like the idea that he's willing to sacrifice everything to save his captain because he witnessed what happens when a first officer isn't willing to do that in the pilots, and he saw the mentor and the person that he respects the most die, and even though he doesn't like Lorca, he's willing to go out on that limb for her. And I think the scene where it's him and Dr. Culber and Stamets, and the three of them are posed this ethical question, to me, that's what Star Trek is about. It's about addressing these difficult moral quandaries, and it was nice from my standpoint to see that brought into this episode for the first time.
Yeah, and you might be making a great point, Ashley, because we're all watching this, having seen all the Star Trek episodes,
and we could disagree and still be friends, even though this is the internet.
We're on this timeline where this is like way before all the episodes and movies that we've watched, almost, you know, except for Enterprise, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's way before then, so that's certainly possible. They're still figuring this all out, right? Yeah. What did you think, Jason, of the episode?
You know, yeah, I agree with Ashley that I was super positive on this episode because a lot of the other episodes to me have fell flat because it says we're showing the Battle of the Binary Stars. Okay, all right. Episode of all the fighting. All right, cool. Oh, we got a spore drive somehow. All right, okay, I don't know what that's about. Right. But this episode, I feel like, yeah, by doing these allegories of this, we have a character that was like, no matter what, I'm not going to let you torture this creature. And then we had the character, even though I do agree with you that Saru making that decision doesn't seem in character with Saru. From what we've seen of Saru, you're just like, why would Saru do this? He's very much prey.
Yeah.
I feel he would sympathize with the tardigrade. It actually felt reversed. I felt more like Stamets should be the one of like, fry it up, let's go.
Right.
And Saru should be the like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But Stamets kind of took a step forward of being my favorite character in this series by him injecting himself, him being the spore drive expert guy. And it'll be interesting to see where they go with this character now, especially with some of the illusions which of other things that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But yeah, I liked this episode being about something, and that's something that none of these other episodes have been about.
Well, this is one of those episodes where they flesh out the characters, the backstories a little bit more, you know, like what they call filler episodes. I didn't feel it was necessarily filler, but because there was a lot of action, but there was more furthering of the storyline of Saru, furthering stories with Lorca. We got more with Lorca about finding out the Battle of Binary Stars, that he blew up his own crew rather than have them be tortured by the Klingons.
He's a coward.
Yeah,
he didn't go down with his ship.
Yeah, this is interesting, right?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying that like this is showing him as a soldier, which makes me want to do this.
No, as one of the two soldiers on this panel, it shows him as a bad commanding officer.
Yeah. Well, but I don't necessarily disagree with his decision.
Get out of here.
Well, no, I don't mean that he let himself live.
Yeah.
That I disagree with. But I don't disagree with him choosing to take out his crew rather than having them be tortured by the Klingons. But then again, you remove the possibility they could be saved. That's the kind of dangerous decisions you make as a
think
captain.
maybe that character detail was more about learning and probably implying some dangerous things for the crew of the Discovery, that he thinks everyone is disposable except for maybe him.
And we saw that the crew works better, so much better together without him. And I think that that's going to be a thrust of the season going forward, is maybe Saru is the person who needs to step up.
Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I'll tell you, I can't stand the portrayal of the Klingons in this series.
Okay.
The Klingons, if you go back to a culture that believes in honor, and we know from past Star Trek that Klingons don't take prisoners.
No.
These Klingons are portrayed as torturing, murderous. They are beating and torturing prisoners for their own amusement.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is something Klingons would do. And I think that the idea when Klingons are not going to parade their opponents. Look, Klingons respect their opponents. That's what going into battle is. You respect the people. You want worthy adversaries. They said in the first episode, we have been looking for a worthy adversary. Yeah. That doesn't mean that you humiliate. You know, and that's the whole point, I think, with a culture of honor. And these Klingons have been acting, in my mind, incredibly dishonorably. Yeah. And especially what we saw on the show. Let's see, you got your female Klingon commander, whatever she is, sleeping with one of her prisoners.
That's inferred.
Inferred.
I would say that's also probably a generous way to put it, sleeping with.
Whatever. I mean, I watch this and I'm like, you know, especially the way we've seen the Klingons portrayed in 50 years of Star Trek, how they've evolved.
Yeah.
And through the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, we really saw the evolution of the Klingons. I mean, Martok is one of the great Star Trek characters of all time. He's noble. He's a fighter. He's a warrior. And that's the kind of Klingon character that we've all known and loved. These Klingons in this show are really off-putting to me.
Yeah, this is an interesting point, but I do have to counter a little bit that there's a divide in the Klingon Empire right now, right? The Kuvma and
the 24 houses,
right? 24 houses. Yeah. So we know that the people are doing certain. And it's the middle of the war, and once again, you said Klingons don't take prisoners. How do we know? We don't know that just 100% yet, and this is all that time. So you could be absolutely correct, but there's also these other moving parts to this situation that are occurring. And you think that she was raping him? Because when Tyler, and I want to walk the line here because I don't want to say this in a defensive way.
I'm going to say no.
It infers that something is happening because his rage when Tyler, which we'll get to in a little bit, starts to beat up the female Klingon. I'm just like, what is that all about?
So I thought that originally that was the implication that I got, and then there's the line that like we don't even have enough organs for that to work, and that is something that is set down in Klingon physiology, that they have a number of different organs than we do, and they're all back up and blah blah blah.
But we've seen Kalar in Next Generation, half Klingon, half human.
True, and we see B'Elanna Torres, and we do see interbreeding later on.
Yes.
And maybe that's something that's going to come out of this evolution that leads them into some of the cultural norms that we expect from them. But Jason has a really great theory that makes me think maybe it wasn't, but I think that was the implication, was that it was.
Yeah, I felt that way. What's your theory?
Okay, let's drop it out right here. Lieutenant Tyler shows up, right? He says he's been on that ship for
He's so cute.
6 months.
Yes.
And even Lorca is like, how the hell have you survived this long? Here's my theory. Lieutenant Tyler is Vok, the torchbearer.
Oh!
Remember that we saw him 3 weeks ago, and this is the same female Klingon. That's the reason why they've been sleeping together. He's a Klingon. He is their plant to get in Discovery. Now, the reason why I think this is because if you go look up the character of Vok on IMDb, he is played by an actor that only has one credit, and that is Star Trek Discovery. If you Google that name, it goes to a weird Google search about a Pakistani serial killer. It's very unfortunate.
Might be the same guy.
Now, this actor, I can't remember the actor's name who plays...
Shazad Latif.
Shazad Latif.
Yes. He is credited in every episode before this. Who has been in every episode before this? Vok.
Very good point.
I think it's all a ploy to get a Klingon on Discovery. I think he's Vok.
That's genius.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great... you know what? I totally believe you.
Yeah.
Because as we know from The Trouble with Tribbles,
Yeah.
we have seen a Klingon disguised as a human being before.
Yeah.
Nils Barris Attaché, who later came back in Trials and Tribulations in Deep Space Nine.
That episode is so good.
So good. We've seen Charlie Brill played that character. I think you're absolutely right.
Now
that I hear that, I'm like,
he's Vok.
okay.
Yeah.
You just brought my estimation of this episode
There you go.
up a little.
And
that's why we do this show.
And,
That's why we do
when
this
you
show.
look at it like that way, and
the research you've done, impeccable.
Yeah, thank you. It goes to a little bit of the Star Trek Discovery has always told us that they're running the long game. Now, I do think they're running this long game a little slow, but like 5 episodes from now, when we find out that Tyler or he walks into Lorca's office and that triple goes crazy.
I hope he just rips open his uniform.
Yeah.
He's
Like
got all
I
these
think he
weird
definitely is
parts.
Vok. I think they're playing us right now.
Well, triples are from the original series for all you young kids out there. And another person from the original series was Harry Mudd, Harcourt Mudd. And he showed up in this episode, played by the great Rainn Wilson, who I absolutely enjoyed him in this episode. And when he was cast and they were going to bring back Mudd, I was not happy about it because I really enjoyed the original guy. But this whole aspect was brought into this character that I did not remember about him. The ruthlessness of Mudd. When you see him in this episode, what did you think of Rainn Wilson's portrayal of Mudd? Because I know you haven't been the biggest fan of Harry Mudd coming back into the series.
Well, I think the character, as it was originally conceived, he was a Western throwback, bringing brides to minors, and then he was turned into sort of a buffoon in both the second season episode I, Mudd, and then the animated series episode. But I have to say that if it wasn't Harry Mudd, if it was a new character, I really enjoyed Rainn Wilson's portrayal, despite the fact that Harry Mudd would be in his late 20s now, but he's being played by an actor in his early 50s. Yes. and the fact that
You age slower in the future.
It's true. And they brought in this whole thing about Stella, his wife.
Yes, I love that.
Who we actually saw in
Who we saw in the original series.
Hardcore Captain Mudd, have you been drinking again? You know, it was all that was
Stella.
Aren't they clones? Isn't Stella a clone?
A robot.
A robot.
Well,
Android.
she was a robot in that episode, but now we know that she was apparently, he
real
had to
person.
come up with some kind of money to marry his wife.
Right.
And that was all very interesting, but like he's just hanging out in what is with Klingons and their prison ships? Like I don't why Harry Mudd?
This is a great point you bring up because why is he spying on them if Vok is already, unless Vok is spying also on the Klingons?
Well, Vok can't know. He doesn't know Vok's.
I think it's a double game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a double game. It's because Harry Mudd, anything we know about him from the original series is that he will do anything to survive.
Yes.
And I think that little bug tracking device was part of that.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I had
think
a name and I can't remember what it
Yeah,
was. Sheldon or something like that.
something pretty. But I think this is a double game. I think that he didn't know that this is Vok. I'm pretty certain this is Vok. I was okay with his performance, even though he's quite a ways off the original actor.
But I appreciate that it wasn't just an impersonation.
Oh, sure,
Yes.
sure. And that type of acting I don't think would work in a modern show. If this was the only appearance...
Very true.
He's very flamboyant.
Yes.
He wears scarves, and that mustache is so gelled, it's believable.
Yeah,
it defies gravity.
We like our gay characters to be very reasonable and down to earth.
If this was the only appearance of Harry Mudd, I would have been just happy with it. I would have been like, okay, cool, this is just fine, because when I saw him in the trailers too, I was like, Harry Mudd? Why are you bringing back that character? But we end the episode with Lorca trapping him in the cell, and he's like, I'm gonna get you. And we know from future trailers that he shows up on the Discovery. I don't need a Harry Mudd versus Lorca subplot. I don't think anybody in the universe is asking for that subplot, so I don't know why Discovery's giving it to us.
They love to bring back Harry Mudd because the Kelvinverse references him as well.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
He's a great character, but it surprises me that he's the one that everyone's like, oh, you know who I want? The mustache guy.
Right.
Like, what?
I mean,
Why
if
not?
anyone
Got to.
But they lay the groundwork for us.
Cyrano
Really?
Jones, bring back Cyrano Jones if you want to. I mean, the thing is, also the portrayal of Harry Mudd is very different from Mudd's women in the first season of the original series to I, Mudd.
Yeah.
In the first season, you know, he's a businessman, a capable trader, and there's that great moment when he's offering the Venus drug to Eve, like, Eve, take it. He's not a funny. He's kind of flamboyant, but he's not a funny character.
No, he's ruthless.
And now they've turned him into this sort of, you know, much more ruthless guy. That, But I looked at that, I'm like, why are the Klingons even keeping him alive?
Yeah, I don't
like,
get it either.
I don't understand. Like, if Lorca is blowing up his ship and killing hundreds of people to save them the from being tortured on what, Klingon television, which I don't think they would do. Why are they keeping
Hunger Games? You heard it here first.
Yeah, why are they keeping Harry Mudd on the ship?
Yeah.
Like, why would they care? He's a non-combatant. He's not part of. He's just a human.
They would have murdered him like immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
makes
he has
no sense.
no scars, no injuries, nothing on his
Yeah.
face. So how does he keep getting away from these beatings? How does he keep doing it? And I guess he was a spy, and he's helping them get information. And because they use that information to torture Lorca, we see this torture scenes. It's very reminiscent of Clockwork Orange with the eyes being jacked open and blinded and that kind of thing. Do we like this idea that now, like, because Lorca at the beginning is being told to stand down from the Federation, to share his technology, that other ships want this technology as well, which Lorca really bristles at because, and we find out later, because of what happened to his crew, what happened in the Battle of the
He doesn't
Binary
like to
Stars.
share. He doesn't want to share his crew, and he doesn't want to share his technology. That's what it comes down
and
to.
so in a way, he's almost as ruthless as the
They are-
Klingons
yeah, and
on the
that-
other side.
it is, and
As Kavol, is that his name?
Cole?
Cole. It's Cole,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, it's weird because they are definitely setting up the trope of Star Trek, the evil captain.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that after this episode that Lorca's only going to be around for the first season. He's only going to be around the first season. I kind of wonder if we're going to end the season with Saru as captain and Burnham as first officer, and that's where we're going to go and get our first alien captain in Star Trek as the lead. But
I would like that, by the way.
I would like
I
that
think
as
that
well.
would be
Yeah.
fantastic.
You'd like
Yeah.
if Saru became captain?
Yes.
That's not
Yeah.
gonna happen. I put $1,000. It's not
do you
going to happen. It'll be Burnham.
Oh, God,
and
hope
it'll
not.
be
But they
Saru
made-
as first officer.
But they made such a big deal about, like, no, our lead character is the first officer, it's this commander, blah,
Right,
blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly hope not.
But anyways, they're taking Lorca on this journey, I think, to just show us the dichotomy between, like, oh, this is what captains were before Kirk,
Right.
and here's Kirk. And here's the problem with that I have, especially as a Star Trek fan, is that, one, they're making Lorca so despicable that you're just like, you don't want to sympathize with this guy at all. Like, he's an evil man. We just proved it from this episode in the dialogue. But also, we got that same journey over 4 seasons of Enterprise with Jonathan Archer.
Yeah.
We saw Jonathan Archer grow up into the Kirk captain, and when he ends that series, you're kind of like, oh, I get how you go from this to Kirk.
Yeah.
But with Lorca to Kirk being only 10 years and Lorca being an evil son of a bitch, I just don't get how you make that transition.
Or unless Lorca is Mirror Lorca.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, and
yeah.
which there's definitely implications of that in this
Oh,
episode.
yeah.
But this is the same time period of the Cage, the Menagerie.
Yes.
Same
So
year.
the Enterprise, the same year, is out there with Pike as commander, with Spock as science officer, and it's not like we've seen Starfleet at this time, and they're not a bunch of a-holes.
No.
Yeah.
And everyone on the ship on the Discovery is really unpleasant.
Well,
I mean, what
Well, there
happened to
was
our aspirational crew? You had to be part of the best of the best
Where are
of
the
humanity.
explorers?
To be
Yeah,
fair, there is an
not there.
entire scene of Pike drinking before he goes down to the
But that's because when Boyce comes in and talks to him,
Yeah.
it's because weeks before 7 of his crew members were killed,
Yeah.
on Rigel.
But I actually found Lorca to be redeeming in this episode to hear his backstory. Like, he may be a coward, he may be this or that, but he is driven to destroy the Klingons. Sometimes in war, even the most uncomfortable people are the people you need on your side to do what needs to be done to win. And I think
Klingons
that's what he's doing. He's doing whatever he can to win because he's driven to do that. But even the people who are in charge of him, the Federation, they know how to deploy him and how not. And they knew that they had to rein him back because the more power you give him and the more success he gets, Lorca is the kind of captain that will loom over and violate and undercut anybody above
Oh
him
yeah,
to
he
get
would
what he
would
wants.
kill you to take your job if it benefited
Right,
him.
exactly.
As much as he would kill you because that's what his overseers told him to do.
Right, and he has this like kind of easy relationship with the admiral.
I liked her.
I liked her. I remember her from Chicago Hope. I had a massive crush on her in Chicago Hope. It was driving me nuts. I was like, how do I know her? How do I know her? And then I looked at her on IMDb.
Look at John Rocha to give you the deep cut CBS reference.
You know what? I think she's a great character and shades of Admiral Nechayev from Next Generation.
That's a
and
good
Deep
call.
Space
Good
Nine.
reference,
I think
yes.
she's great. But one of the things I guess I object to is the fact that they've couched or tried to make the Klingons these irredeemable villains. Star Trek is not about having villains, and I think this has been the problem with modern Star Trek since 2009. Star Trek had antagonists, and one of the great things about Star Trek is all the way back to Arena, where you think that the Gorn is let's destroy the Gorn, and at the last minute Kirk says, no, maybe you thought you were defending yourselves. The whole point about Star Trek has always been to see your enemy in a new light and realize that they don't think they're bad. But these Klingons, I'm really missing the honorable, we are doing the thing that we think is right, where they've made, for the viewers, they've made these Klingons bad. Like irredeemable evil. And I don't think that's right. It really sits wrong with me.
I do see your point because Harry Mudd actually has a really well-written speech in this episode where he talks about, like, you don't think about the people below us and, like, what did you think was going to happen when somebody walked into your front yard? I almost think that speech would have been better served if given by one of the Klingons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's how you
what-
make them redeemable.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. But they've set it up like the torchbearer and the sarcophagus ship that this one house is going to take on the Federation because they come in peace. You know, it's this idea that
So Stamets, let's get to Stamets, because Stamets is going to be our key into this whole idea of the mirror universe. Jason was talking off camera how much you've enjoyed the progression of Stamets.
Yeah.
I contradict Jason completely, but I want to hear your thoughts first. Absolutely.
Well, because again, he so far has been portrayed kind of like Lorca as just a straight up ass, and you know he doesn't give Burnham the time of day. But in this episode, and partly because of his boyfriend Doctor, I don't know if they're married or not. Because of his boyfriend, he listens to her because she's the only one that's like, hey, we're hurting this creature. And when they have that scene at the bridge, I liked this turn. When they had the scene at the bridge and he was ordered by Saru to do it, he was like, yes. And his boyfriend said no. And so we were like, oh man, he is still an ass. That sucks. But then we get the reveal that he decided to sacrifice himself and possibly his life. He didn't know. It could have killed him. Over using the creature again. And to me, I was like, oh, that's a very Star Trek move. That's a very heroic thing to do. And I was like, you finally put your money where your mouth is. You're not just an ass. You actually stand up for what you believe. So yeah, I mean, I like that he is becoming more like Bones and actually backing up his talk with his actions.
There's a line in one of the greatest graphic novels ever, Kingdom Come, where Green Lantern says, now you've heard Big Blue's pitch. Here's our pitch. I think Stamets does it because he's megalomaniacal like Lorca. I think he put himself in that situation because he knew he could increase his power. And when we get that shot of him near the end, that looks like the mirror universe kind of situation where he's just staring at that mirror, which is brilliant. I mean, how obvious can you be they're playing with the mirror universe?
Did you miss the part where he said he didn't want to be on the starship and he was recruited and he's not
That's what I'm
an
saying.
officer?
So he has a lot of anger that he wants to play out in this whole situation. I think he's going to end up being a villainous character as this thing goes along. Because he's been so aggressive towards authority. He kind of messes with Burnham all the time. Even when she came with that thing about like torturing the Lord, he was like, well, you're the reason we're even in this mess.
He's
and
not
he's like,
wrong,
what are you
though.
doing with your mouth? And she's like, well, I'm trying not to.
Including in this episode, breaks the law every episode
she
just
does.
because she wants to.
Absolutely agree with you, Ashley. Burnham is not.
I will fight you
for me,
about Stamets.
She's not redeemable in any way, shape, or form to me. She hasn't learned a lesson.
Can we all agree, by the way, I would love to hear, do we all agree that Burnham is the worst character on the show?
No, I think Stamets comes close for me.
I mean, I think it's a tie between her and Cadet Sweary Face.
Sweary face.
She's
Oh,
pretty
let's
bad.
talk about that. Let's jump into that because we're running out of time. We should jump into this real quick. So anyway, if there's mirror illusions, we'll see. But yes, cussing. Apparently, we can say the F-bomb twice and the S-bomb twice on this.
But not even earn it.
Yeah,
like
right?
that scene solely exists to tell us what we learned last episode, and that'd be like, now we swear. And like, if you're gonna say a swear, earn it. And have it matter and have it be in the heat of battle or when you're passionate, not over technobabble, which we've
Yeah.
all criticized every Star Trek series for the last however many years.
Yeah, and at the panel at New York Comic Con, they made a reference that this was going to happen. That this is the reason they made it paid, is that they wanted to have actual cuss words or swear words in the show.
It was not worth $7.
Because I texted Jason at 7 a.m. going, I don't want cussing in my Star Trek.
Yep, and I said agreed.
You know, in the middle of a war situation,
Yeah.
there's probably better times to employ that word.
Sure.
Yes.
But also, they're 300 years in the future.
Better
And-
swear words.
And I would think that with multiculturalism or multi-alien culturalism, when you've got languages from across the galaxy, why not make up your own?
Yeah.
Why not, you know, one of my favorite things is always to have heard since I was a little kid, swear words in different languages. You know, because the F-bomb is pretty much an English language derived thing.
Yeah.
Why can't they come up with something more interesting that adds to the mythology of Star Trek? It was the dumbest, most ham-fisted way to drop the F word on Star Trek. It was a Star Trek first.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it.
Yeah. Like if there had been like a giant battle scene, the Discovery versus this like 4 other ships, and the 4 other ships were fighting the Discovery, and then at the last minute they happened to blow all of them up, and then you see a helmsman go, F yeah! And then you have the moment where the whole crew like looks at him, he's like, oh sorry, I got excited. Then you'd be like, I buy that moment. But yeah,
It's built to it.
over technobabble, it was just like you just wanted to force that in there.
Or X-Men First Class.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
Xavier and Magneto go to get Wolverine and he employs it in a PG movie, it's one of the best uses of the word in cinematic history, and it's earned.
Yeah.
That becomes clever.
It's true to the character.
Yeah, or even in Logan when Professor X says it when he's talking about the pills and everything like that. You understand, a man's 90 years old. He's cussing all this pain. One of the things that I thought was an overlying theme of this episode was the idea of captains. And we have this shot of like Robert April, Jonathan Archer, Matthew Decker, Christopher Pike, and Captain Georgiou all on this list because Saru's on this trying to understand, can he be a good captain? What are the traits of being a good captain? And we find out it's because he got his desire to become a captain kind of short-circuited by what happened with Georgiou and Burnham. And then we have this idea also of what makes a good captain with Lorca, what makes a good captain with Burnham, who is being groomed to be a good captain. So do you like this? All these things that were going on throughout this whole episode? Because the illusion, I love that they included Matthew Decker because it's still kind of official record. This kind of that he hasn't.
I like they included Pike.
Yeah, Pike, of course.
And Robert April from the Counterclock
and
Incident,
Robert
all the way
April,
back
Screw
to
you
the
guys, I
animated
only cared
series.
about Archer. I was so excited.
And only exists in animated form or written form. He's never been live action.
And who
which
do
is
they
great.
use as his headshot?
Oh, I don't know who.
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry.
That's awesome. There you go. But what did you think about? Did you sense that too throughout this episode? That they're exploring the idea of being a captain, what it takes to be a captain. Do you guys
Yes,
sense
don't
that?
blow up your crew. I mean, when you think about
hashtag save the crew
again,
Yeah,
being
really.
aspirational, to know that our main character, one of our main characters, blew up his crew. Look, it's not like when Matt Decker put his crew on the 3rd planet in the Doomsday Machine. You know, he didn't think that the 3rd planet was going to get eaten by the Doomsday Machine.
He was trying to save them.
He was trying to save them, and they all died, and it twisted him up inside, turned him into Ahab. Well, Lorca doesn't seem too concerned. He's like, you know what? I saved them from a fate worse than death.
Right.
Really, dude?
You didn't sense he was carrying the weight of that?
I do, but then Starfleet said, "Here, have another ship."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we
and
pull
have
you
this
back?
advanced prototype ship.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You know.
not like there's psychological scars from that. You've lost how many hundreds of people because you blew them up on purpose?
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe we don't want you on the front
That's why
line.
he
Yeah.
likes Burnham, because she's the only person who's ever done the same thing and doesn't give a shit and just moved on with her life.
That's good.
But
that
I
totally makes
think
sense.
the metatextual idea that we're addressing, what it means to be a captain, and maybe that's what the season is going to turn out to be about. If it's not this mirror universe thing, like what does it take to lead in Starfleet?
Yeah, and like you were saying, Jason, we saw at Enterprise, it took 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to do that in this season, and they're trying to do that with Burnham, which I'm still on board. Yes, do I hate the fact that she doesn't seem to have learned any freaking lessons, and she keeps like undermining authority, even when Sue told her, stand down, don't talk about this, don't tell her about the Space Bear. She still went out of her way to do it, even though she was encouraged by Wilson Cruz's character to do it. She still did it because anybody's going to give her an opening, she will violate the rules because she thinks she knows best. And that's sometimes what Kirk did. And so there's this.
Yeah, but
these
he was
ideas.
often right.
Yeah, well, true.
She's
Fair.
never been right.
And he was the captain of the ship.
Yeah. You know, I will say that this scene really quickly gave me hope that sometime we're going to go to somebody's quarters and we're going to see a bronze statue of Scott Bakula sitting on somebody's shelf.
I would love this Ephraim
boy.
Cochrane statue. That'd be so great.
He
So.
may get a. He may get a. He
I
may get
hope
a guest.
so.
I would
I
be
hope
great to
so.
see him
Also,
come
real
on.
quick, you shouted out Wilson Cruz, Dr. Culber, the medical uniforms have never looked better, I think, than
Agreed.
the
Oh,
white
yeah.
suit in this universe.
Agreed. Okay, I think we've talked. Is there anything else? Any final thoughts on this episode? What do you think? How about real quick? Where do you think we're going next?
I'll tell you something I really didn't like.
Okay.
I also didn't like. I didn't like.
I thought
the
we covered
lingering-
that for 28
when they're
minutes.
showing a female Klingon whose face is needlessly burned, and they linger on her in horrible pain.
Yeah.
Look, I understand war sucks, but when you're watching a female Klingon being beaten within an inch of her life
That
and her
was so
face burned,
uncomfortable.
I'm like.
Yeah.
There was something that was wrong that just hit me wrong about it. I'm
Especially
like,
when you later learn it's going to be foreplay.
yeah, absolutely.
Whoa.
But
Especially the week when Me Too is trending.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
watching this. I'm like, wow,
Good
this
point.
is pretty tone deaf. Kind of like Black Alert.
Well, because we didn't get the background of why. If
Yeah.
we had seen what she did to him physically, then maybe you could understand. But if it's Vok, then what is the impulse? And why is he doing it so viciously? It was so vicious. I was uncomfortable watching that.
They had to
I
sell
agree.
it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe the next episode she'll be smiling and go, "Do you think they bought it?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Tackling.
also think that scar is what's going to drive her
Oh,
to be
yeah.
even more.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I understand why they did it, but to linger on it was a bit grotesque, a bit extra that we didn't
Yeah.
need. So anyway, all right, that's our breakdown of episode 5, Choose Your Pain of Star Trek Discovery. Thanks everybody for watching this review. Let's go around the table, see where everybody can find you. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on Facebook at Robert Meyer Burnett.
And Captain Ashley Victoria Robinson. Where
You can
they find
find me, that's such an upgrade, I'm usually the ensign, on Twitter and Instagram at Ashley V. Robinson, and I look forward to talking more Star Trek Stamets in the future.
I know what the season's going to bring us, and at the end, Ashley will be captain. All right, and Jason, where
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Jawin, Jawin, where I'll be giving out my theories about how I think the Stamets of the Mirror Universe is now on the ship.
Oh, good call, Admiral Inman. All right, and also you guys can find me at the Rocha Says on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again for watching. Please leave us your thoughts and comments below on YouTube, and keep watching every week. We will be reviewing every episode of Star Trek Discovery. We will see you next time on.
Hey everybody, Josh McCouga here. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Collider TV Talk. Want to watch more episodes? Click there. It's an interactive link. Or for more Collider content, click down there. Subscribe to the channel. Tell all your friends. Get an airplane. Drive it by that says Collider. I'm not telling you to buy an airplane. Just do whatever you want as long as you're watching Collider video.